In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at this cheap, no-name brand disc lock. And we're also going to be looking at my preference for the Pagoda hook and how it differs from a standard hook. Hey folks, welcome to Pugs Picks Locks. If you're new here, feel free to click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And then, if you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Click that like button and leave a question or a comment down below if you have one. I am more than happy to engage with you in the comment section, either to receive your feedback or to answer any questions you may have. And I do mean that I want to receive your feedback. I don't always get everything right. So if I got something wrong, or if there's something I could do differently or something I could do better, please let me know. I am so happy to learn from all of you so that I can continue to grow my skill set, grow my knowledge base, and provide you with better and better content. So let's dive into this week's video and start with the shout out of the week. And this week, the shout out is going to Lockheed Lockpicking. Lockheed Lockpicking is not just a talented picker who has picking videos on his channel, of course, along with some product reviews and other things, but he also hosts a weekly live stream along with Lady Locks, and Lady Locks has been featured as a shout out on this channel before. Together, they host a weekly live stream in which folks from the Locksport community can join, and they can either join on camera and pick locks live, or they can join in the chat and just hang out and BS and talk with and connect with other members of the Locksport community. So Lockheed, along with Lady Locks via the Picking Time live stream, is providing an incredible service to the Locksport community, allowing Locksporters to connect with each other. Locksport, by its nature, is kind of a solitary sport. I mean, it's a thing that we'll often sit at home and just pick locks, and we'll pick locks watching TV, or we'll just whatever. But actually getting to hang out with and pick locks with and pick the brains of other folks in the Locksport community is truly a wonderful thing, and it's truly a phenomenal service that Lockheed is providing along with Lady Locks. Okay, this week, the lock that we're featuring is this generic, no-name, cheap disc lock. You'll find these locks, these types of locks, very often in storage facilities. So if you rent a storage locker or a storage unit, and you didn't supply your own lock, you didn't bring your own lock, they may have these types of disc locks sitting behind the counter for you to purchase, probably marked up a bit, but still cheaper than a true high security lock. And these locks, I mean, they look and feel impressive enough. I mean, they feel like a hefty chunk of steel, and it tells you that it's stainless steel right on it, and it tells you that it has a hardened shackle right there, so you know it's quality, right? And this particular one, made in China, again, advertising that it is truly stainless steel. And it feels like a tough little lock, but it's actually a relatively easy pick. There are disc locks like this made by more reputable manufacturers, reputable brands, like Abus makes one, makes a nice one, Brink Security makes one, that have better pick resistance than this cheap no-name one does. But I'm not here, I'm not featuring this lock just to bust on it and tell you how easy it is to pick, and look at me, I'm so great, I can pick anything, blah, 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 blah. This is, I'm featuring this to, as a way to talk about and demonstrate some tools. So I have a whole series on tensioning, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. And I have a series of videos on tensioning and tension wrenches and my tensioning philosophy and why I love this particular tension wrench. The Z wrench is my favorite tension tool in the world, and that's what we're going to be using on this lock. But I also wanted to talk a little bit more about why I love this Pagoda hook so much and why it is my go-to. Because I don't think I've talked, well, maybe I have. I can't remember ever really talking about that in a video on this channel, about why this Pagoda hook is my go-to tool, as opposed to like this standard hook, which has a very similar profile. And I'll lift them up and show you those in just a second. Before we get there, this is the key for this particular lock. You can see that it has, I'd call it medium bitting. It's not the most challenging bitting in the world. It's also not the easiest. It has very steep valleys. So you have a 0 lift on 1, a very minimal lift on 5, slightly higher lift on 4, and then truly high lifts on 2 and 3. So there's a little bit of up and down on this. So it's not the easiest bitting in the world, but it's also not the most challenging that we've ever seen. And you can see that the keyway is actually pretty small also, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, a little bit more in just a moment. So we can see that the key works. This is a functioning lock, and it is nice and secure. So about that keyway, so this little this is a slightly smaller keyway, and I'm actually going to be, and oftentimes for a smaller keyway, we might choose to go for top of the keyway tension, because with top of the keyway tension, we leave ourselves all that real estate in the bottom of the keyway in order to work a pick and work a pick up against the pin stacks and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually going to go bottom of the keyway tension with this, and part of the reason for choosing to go bottom of the keyway is if you look inside of that keyway, I don't know if I can get a great angle on it, but you see this little bit of warding right here at the bottom of the keyway. So this bit of warding right here is kind of blocking access to the pin stacks. Even if you had if you were going top of the keyway and you were trying to get at those pin stacks, it's very non-paracentric. It's a very paracentric keyway. I almost said non-paracentric, which would have been opposite. It's a very paracentric keyway, which makes getting around the warding to truly manipulate the pins freely a bit of a challenge. And because that warding is in the way anyways, it kind of doesn't matter if I go bottom of the keyway. I still have the same amount of room regardless, because of that warding, because of the way the warding in the keyway is set up and laid out. So back to the tools. You can see the biggest difference. So these are both made by SouthOrd, and I'm not sponsored by SouthOrd, and as I have said in the past, I would love to be sponsored by SouthOrd. I truly love the tools that they make, but anyhow, my shameless plug for myself aside, you can see that the difference between the Pagoda hook and the shallow hook is in the tip, because they're pretty much the same profile otherwise. The difference is the rounded tip of the shallow hook and the pointed tip of the Pagoda hook. And that difference is is everything for me. I would use these picks in the same locks. Like if I did not have the Pagoda hook, I would happily reach for the short hook, for the shallow hook, and I have, and I do. But anywhere I can use a shallow hook, I tend to end up using the Pagoda hook, and we're going to talk about the reasons why. So like I said, bottom of the keyway tension, I'm starting with the shallow hook, right? And it has a rounded tip. And that rounded tip allows for decent feel. I mean, I can feel the pins, and I can feel as I'm moving from one to the next. There's pin 5, there's pin 4, there's pin 3, 2, and there's pin 1. Oops, slipped right off of 1. And that slipping right off of 1 like that is kind of the reason why I lean towards the Pagoda hook. That rounded tip, I mean, it's better than a flat tip type of tool. For instance, if we were to bring out this standard hook from SouthOrd, which I love. I call this hook the 1100 killer. I use it on all American Lock Series 1100s, Series 1100 padlocks. It's brilliant. For whatever reason, I've been able to open every 1100 I've ever touched with this tool. But that very flat profile can be a challenge in terms of feeling exactly which pin you're on with some locks. Other locks, you don't notice it at all. But with the rounded tip, I mean, I can feel it, but I have a tendency to slip off. So that flat profile of the standard hook is it allows you, it prevents you from slipping off of the pins as easily because it has that wide flat tip. And so you can get on top of a pin and really crank on it without worrying about slipping off. Whereas with a rounded profile like that, you might slip off the head of the pin, the head of the key pin. But it does give you pretty decent feel. And I'm starting at the back lock. One of the unique things about this lock is that you can see that the pick drives all the way through and out the drain hole in the back of the lock. And that's what these little holes that you see in the lock are for. If it gets wet, water gets inside, water can drain out. So I've actually stabbed myself in the hand a few times using trying to pick this lock because it just slides straight through to the back. All right, so kind of light tension on this, light medium. Like you can see I can slip the pick through, but it takes a little bit of effort. So medium tension. There's pin 5. Didn't move much. Pin 4 got a little bit of movement, not really a click. Pin 3, no. Pin 2 got a good click out of. Pin 1, no movement at all. So let's go back to the back. And so I'm able to navigate and figure out my pick depth and everything pretty efficiently with this rounded tip. Let's just test them all. I'm wondering if something's overset. Relax a little bit of tension. And there, I touched 5 after I relaxed the tension. And we have our open celebratory wiggle instead of celebratory swivel. So it's an effective tool, and I really like it. And it's being able to feel the pins. I can feel the pins, and I can move through, and I can touch each one. The difference for me is really the feel. So we're locked back up. Let's make sure all the pins are reset by just getting the key in there once more to make sure that we don't have any pins that are just hanging up in the Bible or anything like that. It's really a feel thing for me. So if I go to the back of the lock again, and same tension, light, medium tension, and so there's pin 5. There's pin 4. I can feel the tip, this pointed tip, slip in between the pins so easily. There's 4, got a little bit of movement, 3, and there's a big click out of 2, and nothing really out of 1. I go back to lock, 5, 4, overset 4. So let's release a little tension and go back through, 3, big click out of 3, 4, 5, and we're open. Same thing. I touched 5 and celebratory wiggle. So it's really, I guess it's really a feel thing, and being able to feel the space in between the pins so easily with this pointed tip. The tip, like if you imagine my knuckles are the pins, that tip just slides right in just so easily, right in between them. So I get like pin 4, and then I know that if I move just a little bit, there's pin 4 and I can press it down. And then I feel that space between 4 and 5, I move just a little bit and I'm on top of 4, whatever, numbers. I'm trying to say numbers. And I can push them down. Sorry, I got my numbers mixed up. So yeah, it really is a feel thing. And being able to gauge your pick depth is one of the most critical parts of being able to decipher a lock, because knowing exactly what pin you are on. Okay, you can go, I'm on pin, like if I were to narrate this lock a little bit more thoroughly, I would go back of the lock. There's pin 5. Pin 5 does not appear to be moving. It's binding. I got a tiny click out of it when I pressed a little bit harder. There's pin 4. It's moved. Now it's stopped moving. I didn't really get a click. It feels a little bit spongy. Now I'm on pin 3. And got a click out of 3. And pin 2. Not much out of 2 and nothing out of 1. 2 and 1 are not really moving. So let's go back to the back of the lock, and then I feel for 5. So now I can decipher the binding order a little bit better. I got that big click out of 3, and so I know that 3 was the first one to set, and then 2 gave me a little bit of something. Now, as I go back through the pin stacks once more, 4, 3, 2, something overset. Let's just let the pins reset themselves. There. And there was 4 that time. So it was basically 3, 2, 5, 4. 1 was a 0 lift. Celebratory wiggle. So by being able to identify exactly what pin you're on and when it binds and when it sets, you're able to really decipher a lock, and that makes the picking of that lock more repeatable, because you know which pin did what when you were on it, because you knew which pin you were on. So having that high level of feel, that's really the big difference between these rounded tip profiles versus this pointed tip profile in the Pagoda hook. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, remember to drop a like and leave a comment or a question below. If you're new here, subscribe and ring the notification bell for more content like this. Until the next video, happy picking y'all.